Welcome back, Bibliomaniacs. We're talking more books today. Today we're going to start talking about a book about. Actually, the book is entitled "The Lost History of Christianity," and that's the subject that it's about: the thousand-year golden age of the church in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The Eastern Church in those areas was highly educated. It had access to the Hellenistic and Persian scholarship that was lost in the West during the Dark Ages. So it's a chapter. It's a huge chapter of Christian history that most people are totally ignorant about. And these are the top 10 things I learned from The Lost History of Christianity. Number 1, Eastern Christianity spread to India by the 2nd century. And that is the latest date it was there. It was there in India so early it might be there at the end of the 1st century. It was this is well-known Christian tradition. Thomas, the Apostle Thomas, brought Christianity to India, and he sailed there. And there's stories. Written stories about that trip and the miracles that occurred in the process of bringing it there. And there's even some fascinating alternative history books on Jesus spending his final years after the crucifixion in India. And that book is called The Original Jesus. Fascinating book. I agree with the influences of the East on Christianity, but I don't think he spent his years there personally. That's my opinion. Number 2, Nestorian Christians preserved non-canonical psalms which were rediscovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. That to me testifies to their authenticity. If they were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls and they were also preserved among the Nestorians, then those psalms probably were lost during the destruction of the Second Temple. And so you might think, oh, they were non-canonical, so that means they were judged to be not up to par. Well, I believe that they were non-canonical because they weren't around to be judged. So that's my opinion on that. Brings us to number 3. Eastern Christianity spread to China by the 6th century. And that's the latest. That's also the latest it was there. We know that for a fact because written records show that there was silkworms smuggled out of China and they were being traded. And so by 550, Christianity had reached China. And it's possible it was there centuries earlier. It's possible that it might have rivaled India in how soon Christianity was brought to China. And that's one of the fascinating things about, a religion that asks its followers to proselytize and take this message to others. That you're guaranteeing how quickly that message is going to spread across the globe when you make that part of your faith. Number 4, Eastern Christians saw Jesus Christ as a Buddha-like savior figure bringing spiritual enlightenment to mankind. And this is from a stele in basically it's a boundary stone in which an inscription to Jesus was carved. And tell me this doesn't sound very Buddhistic. The illustrious and honorable Messiah, veiling his true dignity, appeared in the world as a man. He fixed the center of the 8 boundaries, thus completing the truth and freeing it from dross. He opened the gate of the 3 constant principles, introducing life and destroying death. He suspended the bright sun to invade the chambers of darkness, and the falsehoods of the devil were thereupon defeated. He set in motion the vessel of mercy by which to ascend to the bright mansion, whereupon rational beings were then released. Having completed the manifestation of his power, in clear day he ascended to his true station. Number 5. In both India and China, the Christian cross was adorned with a lotus, a symbol of enlightenment. Not only that, there are those that believe that the Rosicrucians, which are a mystical, this secret society in Europe, this mystical group, and their symbol was a cross with a rose on it in the middle of it, and the lotus was similarly adorned on Christian crosses in the East, and sometimes they were, I believe, at the base too, like it was growing. The cross was growing out of a lotus. Number 6, due to religious persecution in different parts of Asia, crypto-Christianity gained popularity, and that was a necessity because a lot of areas in the East have state religions. So when there are changes of the guard and some new emperor is running the show, well, there's a new state religion, and you were forced to take on the state religion, but they would, there would be the undercurrent of Christianity there, and that Christianity would take on some of the flavoring of the state religion that was overlaid over it, and you get some unique forms of Christianity that way. But it was a necessity. It wasn't done for style points. It was that or your head was cut off. Number 7, Eastern Christianity penetrated into Ethiopia by the 5th century. It made its way down to Aksum. That was the then capital of Ethiopia at the time, and Judaism had reached there. There are legends about the Queen of Sheba taking her son with Solomon and the Ark of the Covenant down to Aksum. And Graham Hancock, the alternative historian, he wrote his first alternative history book based on that subject. It's called The Sign and the Seal. It's a fascinating book. Nothing too outlandish either. He has a reputation that precedes him as far as he's not mainstream by any stretch of the imagination, but this is his most mainstream book, and it's kind of an Indiana Jones style book that is worth reading. Number 8, Islam was directly influenced by the Eastern Christianity of the Nestorians and the Jacobites. A lot of different ways they were actually influenced. They were influenced the way they do their prostrations, the way they pray, they kneel and they bow and their arms are stretched out. That actually came from Eastern Christianity. So did the headscarves, these controversial headscarves. That was a Christian tradition in those areas originally. And that shouldn't be too surprising because Islam views itself as the continuation of the monotheistic tradition. So, but some of these things we always associate with Islam, and they were actually originally Eastern Christian traditions. Number 9, the architecture of Islamic mosque was influenced by the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. When the Roman Empire became a Christian empire, they relocated the seat of Rome from Rome to Constantinople, and they commissioned the building of the Hagia Sophia, which is this beautiful Christian temple that has since been converted into a mosque. And that design prototype is where mosques that's where these 4 minarets around the central mosque, that's That's from the Hagia Sophia. That was a Christian design. Number 10, the Muslim month-long fast of Ramadan has roots in the Christian observance of Lent. Ramadan is where you cannot eat during daylight hours for a month, and it's a test of your faith and a test of your spirituality, your spiritual integrity, I guess, and that comes from Lent. A lot of the parts of Ramadan are similar fasting that was popular with the Lent tradition. So those are the top 10 things I learned from the Lost History of Christianity. I learned a lot more than that. However, those are the greatest hits, so to speak. It is a fascinating book, and I recommend it to everybody that enjoys history or the history of Christianity. It's absolutely a top-notch book, and the author, Philip Jenkins, he's a renowned Christian scholar. So it is very scholarly, but it's also very accessible. It isn't anything hard to read by any stretch. You can find it in bookstores, and you can or these kids these days, they don't. I love bookstores, man, because the whole feature of people that bought this also bought that. That is never the equivalent of browsing. So, but however you want to get it, check it out. It's a great book, and thanks again for listening.